Welcome back for our final playthrough of the Dragon's Demand Pathfinder Adventure Card Game. In this scenario, we're either going to be Dragonslayers or Dragon Food. Now this is scenario 3B. 3C is just a way to create random scenarios, so I won't be going through that, but that's just a way to keep on playing with the characters you've created. So for this scenario, we found the dragon. We need to kill him. The danger is going to be the rescue card. There is no villain, there is no henchman. We have one location of the caves, which we've got back here. For setup, after building the location, if you have 3 more characters, which we don't, so we'll skip the rest of this. When preparing the story bane, set aside the story bane dragon. Make a stack with 1 villain proxy, plus a number of henchmen proxies equal to 2, plus half the number of characters. So we'll have 3 henchmen proxies and a villain, and they are shuffled into the caves. We're setting aside the wild card, the perils. For each henchman, put in the henchman pile during scenario 3A, which would have been 0. We can choose and mark one that cannot be applied, but for this scenario, we are going to be open to all these possibilities. So it can be set ablaze. The end of your turn, suffer 1d4 minus 2 damage. We can be confused. After you reset, shuffle a random card into your deck. Monsters can be deadly. When you suffer damage, it's increased by 1. Cards can be hostile. When you fail to check to acquire, to close, or to guard, suffer combat damage as if the check were to defeat a monster. Unhallowed. On any check, when you would discard a blessing for its power, bury it instead. When you would recharge it for its power, discard it instead. And wearisome. Each turn you may use no more than 1 power that lets you explore. So that's the setup. For this scenario, caves cannot be closed. When you would suffer fire damage, suffer acid damage instead. When you would encounter a proxy, first apply a random unmarked wild card from the perils. Stop applying any other wild card from the perils. Then encounter the dragon instead of the proxy. The dragon always rolls acid. When the dragon would be defeated, stop applying all wild cards from the perils. Then if there are 3 or more cards in the location, the dragon is undefeated. Shuffle a new blessing into the hourglass. Then if you encountered a villain proxy, put that proxy on the bottom of the location. If you encountered a henchman proxy, banish it. To win, we got to beat the dragon. So from our last adventure, the hero points gained for Valeros, even though he had some cool abilities. Knowing this was going to be the last one, I just spent that on dexterity, which will make sense here shortly. And for Sione, I checked one of her new abilities. At the start of your turn, you may draw up to 2 cards. If you do, recharge that many cards. So that's going to help me cycle through my deck for the cards I'm going to need. Probably healing. And the dragon, it's always going to be acid. Before acting, each local character must succeed at a dexterity or acrobatics 8 check, or suffer 1d4 damage and the scourge wounded. And the cave itself, when you fail a check to defeat a bane, suffer the scourge dazed. So lots of things that can go wrong in this game. All right, so starting hand size of 5. We need a sword. We've got an axe and a mace. Look harder for a sword. And we find both our swords with some full plate, a prayer, and a guide. So we'll shuffle these back in our deck. And for Sione, drawing 6 cards, looking for a spell, finding 5 spells and a blessing. So we will start with Valeros. On the hour, when you heal, you may heal an additional card. Go ahead and put on our full plate. And take a peek in the cave. Finding some glamored leather armor, needing Constitution, Diplomacy, or Fortitude of 7. That will be a D8 plus 2 for us. Getting a 6. So close, but still discarded. We'll end turn and draw a card, finding our great axe. And on to Sione. So we'll go ahead and use her power to draw 2 cards and then recharge 2 cards. So we had way too many spells to start with. So we will recharge our ally and a lightning bolt. And then take a peek in the cave, finding a gargoyle. Combat of 15, vulnerable to magic. If evaded or undefeated, reload this monster into its location. So we're going to use our firebolt, which is magic, so it's vulnerable, so we're going to get +4 for that. And to help me remember all this, I'm going to use another die with some pips on it to let me know what my bonuses are. Arcane +2, so that's going to be a D12, plus another 2, so we're adding 6 to this roll. And then 2d6, and we have a roll, so another d6, or 3 d6s coming in. And we'll set this up for recovery. So we're looking for 15, adding 6, getting 11, 15, 19, 25. So the gargoyle is going. There's no sense in rushing at the moment, so we'll go ahead and end our turn, shuffling this into our deck. I did forget the hour, so there would have been no effect for the hour. And we'll draw a card, finding a blessing. On to Valeris's turn for the hour, no effect. Take a peek in the cave, finding a dragon proxy. So he's always going to roll acid because of the scenario. Before acting, each local character must succeed at a dexterity or acrobatics 8 check or suffer d4 damage and the scourge wounded. This is going to be what kills us. Combat of 22, diplomacy of 15. So let's start our dexterity checks. Valeris has a d8 plus 3. I'm sorry, d8 plus 1. So we need a 7 or an 8. We did not get a 7 or an 8. So he will take 1d4 damage and become wounded. So for d4, 1 damage, which I'll take with a great axe, and wounded. Start of your turn, discard the top card of your deck. When you would heal any number of cards, you may remove the scourge instead. I'll just go ahead and plop that card up there, and we'll use this token to identify that. For Sione, she has a d6 plus 1, so there's no way she can make it. Since the hour is 0, she'll go ahead and bless this and recharge that card. So she got 2d6, adding 1, looking for an 8. So we ended up with 9 plus the 1, so she passed that check. So now on to the fight, or actually the perils. Now before we encounter, we'll roll a d6. Basically, I'm just going to go straight down the list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and see what we add. So a 2, we're going to be confused. After you reset, shuffle a random card into your deck. So we'll go ahead and mark that. Now on to the fight. We're definitely using our sword. So that's going to be our D10 plus 2. So add that there. Then a D8 plus 2. So we're up to plus 4. Against a dragon, we're adding a D10. And since we're proficient, we're going to reload to add another d4. So that hopefully helps us from being wounded here. we're going to use our special power for local combat. We're going to reload or recharge a weapon or armor to add another d6. And our blessing is 0, and Sione had another one of these. Ours level was 0, recharge instead to bless. So we'll get another d10, adding 4. So we need a 22. Getting a 10, 17, 20, 24, 34, 39, 43. We'll say this version is dead. So since it's a henchman proxy, this will be removed from the game. We'll clear all our perils, and we will add a random blessing. Oops. Take a blessing and add that into our hourglass. And we will call that a turn using our special power to recharge this. We'll draw up to 5 cards, so 3 more cards. Getting our 2 swords and an acolyte. Then we will pass turn to Sione. So when you heal, you may heal an additional card. Start of her turn, we're going to draw 2 cards and then recharge. Then we're going to use our Staff of Minor Healing to recharge to heal a local character a card. But instead of healing, we're just going to remove the Scourge. And then we'll take a look in the cave. Finding another henchman proxy, aka the dragon. So for the dex check, she's a d6 plus 1. Which by itself is not going to do it. Cards in hand are not going to help with this. So Valeros will bless her dexterity check. Needing an 8, adding 1 to this roll. Getting an 11. And for Valeros, he's a d8 plus 1. So got a 5, so he'll be taking 1d4 damage. Getting a 3. So we'll see how long his full plate will last here. So if proficient, when you suffer any damage, you may bury to reduce it to 0. You may succeed at a Fortitude 6 check to recharge instead. So Fortitude is a d8 plus 2. Looking for a 6. So our 4 plus 2 gets us where we need to, so recharge. So that's our before acting. Let's roll for the perils. Getting a 1. So we're being set ablaze. At the end of your turn, suffer 1d4 minus 2 damage. So there's a good reason to defeat him here to get that removed. So we're going to use our Volcanic Storm, Arcane, or Divine. So that's a d12 plus 2. Plus 3d6. And if we would fail this check against a monster you encounter, you may evade instead. So that might come in handy. So put that to recovery. Going to put our dinosaur against the dragon in here for another d6. And Valeris is going to use his special power on a local combat check to recharge a weapon to add another d6. So there's that. So we're looking for 22 and we're adding 2 to this roll. So we've got, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 19, 21. So we're going to take 1 damage. And at the end of the turn, we apply end of turn effects first. So we're going to take 1d4 minus 2 damage, but we have no cards in hand. Just out of curiosity, that would have been 0 damage. We will recover the spell. Drawing 6 cards. Getting a bodyguard, soothing word, and some blessings. And because of the location, we'll become dazed. So you may not examine locations. If you explored this turn, you may not explore again. If you didn't suffer the scourge on this turn, at the end of your turn, shuffle your hand into your deck and remove the scourge. And the proxy will be shuffled back into the deck. So for Valeros, on each check, the first blessing played to bless may be played freely. It'll take a look in the cave, finding the villain proxy card. So we'll start with some dexterity checks. He'll be a D8 plus 1. So slight chance. Getting an 8 plus 1. Sione's a D6 plus 1, so that's going to be an auto fail. She got close though, that would have been a 7. So D4 damage. It's going to be 3 damage, which her bodyguard will jump in front of. And she will become wounded. So for the perils, we're going down number 3 on the list. So it's going to be deadly, in addition to being ablaze. So deadly will increase the damage by 1 if we lose. We do have our worm smite, so that's going to be giving us our D10 plus 3. A D8 plus 2. And another D10, since it's a dragon. I think I cheated myself on the last attack by not giving me the plus 3. And we're proficient, so we'll reload to add another D4. Sione will bless, giving us another D10. And that's all we can do. So we need a 22, and we're adding 5 to this. So we've got 10, 16, 17, 20, 25. So we defeated the dragon. We will remove all the perils in effect. We'll put another blessing in our hourglass. And since this is the villain proxy, that will go on the bottom of the location deck. We will then draw up to 5 cards, so 3 more. Getting our sword back, another sword, and a fox. So start of turn, because of being wounded, discard the top card of our deck, which is our Staff of Healing. Take a look at her blessing. On your check to close her guard, add a D4. I'm going to use Soothing Word to remove a scourge from us. Then we're going to brave it and take a look in the cave. Finding a belt of physical prowess, needing strength, dexterity, or constitution of 11. And this would be nice to get. To keep in our hand, on dexterity checks, we could reveal to add 1. But we're not going to waste a blessing on this, so we'll just toss that to the side. And because of dazed, at the end of the turn, we'll shuffle our hand into our deck and remove dazed. And we'll also do recovery, so this will get shuffled into our deck too. And we will draw 6 cards. Getting Soothing Word, Bracers, Blessing, some Deflect, so nothing really to attack with. Back to Valeris's turn. On your check to acquire a boon, add a d6. If you succeed, bury the boon. So we'll look into the cave, finding another proxy. So first, dexterity checks for everyone. Everyone gets a +1. So a d8 +1 for Valeros, needing a 7 or 8 on this roll. So we get a total of a 5. So we're going to take d4 damage and become wounded. And for the damage, we're taking 2, which is going to be our guide and our fox. For Sione, her d6 +1 gets a 4, so she'll take d4 damage, which is going to be 4. She'll recharge to reduce it by 1. So for the 3 damage, we already had the wounded marker on her. Took the card off instead of the token last turn, and we'll add that over here too. And we'll move this over here and put that there to signify what that means. So now we can actually fight. Actually, no, one more thing yet. D6 to see what the peril is. So we're down on 4, so it's going to be hostile. When you fail a check to acquire, to close, or to guard, suffer combat damage as if the check were to defeat a monster. That could be deadly also. Now the fight. Worm Smite again. So D10 +3. D8 +2. Or D10 since it's a dragon. Reload for D4. Then use our power to reload for a D6. Sione will bless for another D10. So needing a 22. Adding 5. So we've got 5, 11, 13, 15, 18, getting up to 23. So we'll remove all perils. Remove the proxy. Add in another blessing. So pass to Sione's turn. No effect on this hour. She has 1 card in hand, so she's going to use that to remove a scourge from herself. Well, actually, before that, she would have top card of her deck, would have went to her discard pile. So she lost a firebolt. Now she'll go remove the scourge. She will not explore, so she will just end her turn, shuffling this into her deck and drawing 6 cards. So leaves her 3 cards in her stack. And fortunately, we did get our Soothing Word and some nice blessings. She will not be fighting. So passing turn to Valeros. For his damage, he'll discard a card, which is a sword. I didn't draw up from last turn. So we got our swords and some more items. So for wounded, losing a shield. Blessing. After discard any number of cards as damage, draw a card. Going to display some armor. Then take a peek in the cave. Finding a chimera. So we've got a Good grief. Combat of 9, then a combat of 10, then a combat of 11. Before acting, each local character suffers 1 fire damage. If undefeated, 3 random local characters could suffer 1d4 damage. So let's see here. We'll go ahead and reduce the damage by 1 and recharge. And Sione will use her bracers to recharge to reduce by 1. So for fighting, we're going to have our D10 plus 3 plus a D8 plus 2. So that gives us an additional plus 5. So we're going with that. Getting 9 showing. So for our second fight, we'll do the exact same thing. We'll use the power to use this to get a D6. Looking for a total of 10, adding 5. So we've got 14 showing, so we're good there. And then the final fight. Take the D6 out, using this again. Reload it to add a D4, looking for an 11, and we're adding 5. Got 11, 17, 22. Killed this beast. End of turn. Recharge an armor in their discard pile, and then draw up to 5. Getting her swords back and some healing. So for Sione's turn, Blessing, on your check against an undead card, add a D6. Going to use her Soothing Word to get wounded off of Valeros. Then go ahead and end her turn, shuffling this into her deck. Drawing 2 cards. Getting a bodyguard and our bracers. So back to Valeros for the hour. No effect. He's going to use his elixir to heal a local character, which is going to be Sione, 1d4 plus 1 cards. Hoping for something big. So she'll heal 4 random cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll shuffle those in. Then he will proceed into the cave, finding a wand of innervation, intelligence arcane. No way he's going to be able to acquire this. So we'll just go ahead and pitch that. And in his turn, drawing a card, finding a blessing. For Sione's turn, no effect this hour. Just going to look at the top 2 cards and recharge 2. So Soothing Word she'll definitely keep. And get rid of these 2. Then use Soothing Word to heal a card. So put that one, shuffle that into our deck. And let's see, how many cards we got left? We've got quite a bit to go. Well, the hour's a 0. We have 2 good blessings in her hand. She'll take a peek in the cave, finding a pit trap, needing dexterity, acrobatics, or wisdom perception. So she'll go dexterity, D6 plus 1. Since the hour's a 0, she'll bless this. Needing a total of 6. Getting 9 plus her 1. So we've seen the pit trap. If defeated, you may explore. So we'll go ahead and explore again, finding a summoning trap. So intelligence, wisdom, arcane, divine of 13. So arcane is a d12 plus 2. Go ahead and bless it. Getting another d12. So we're looking for 13, adding 2. We've got a 13 showing. So we've fended off the summoning trap. If undefeated, reload a new monster. So this goes away. And we feel good with going through 2 barriers. We'll go ahead and end our turn, shuffling that in and drawing 3. Finding a Staff of Minor Healing and some blessings. For Valeris. For your non-attack combat check, add 1. He'll take a look in the cave, finding a dragon proxy. So dexterity checks for everyone. So we're +1. He's a D8 +1. So hoping for the best. Getting an 8 +1, so he's good. So Sione, with her lonely D6, she'll go ahead and bless to give her a chance at least. Getting an 8, 9, so she's good. Then for the perils, getting a 5. So we're unhallowed. On any check, when you would discard a blessing for its power, bury it instead. When you would recharge it for its power, discard it instead. So that kind of sucks. So on to our fight. We're using a Worm Smite, which is going to be a D8 and a D10, and that adds a total of 5 for us. It's a dragon, so we're going to get another D10. Then we're going to reload it to get a D4. We're then going to use our power to reload another weapon to get a D6. Then he's going to bless this, adding another D10, and because of the peril, this will be buried. So needing a 22, adding 5 to this. Getting a 4, 5, 12, 18, 21, 26. So we defeated the Bane. Whoops. So that will be removed. We'll shuffle a blessing into our hourglass, which isn't going to be our problem. We will remove this. End our turn, drawing up to 5. So get her 2 swords back and a flaming mace. So on to Sione for the hour. When you're checking against an animal or elemental card, add a D4. Using her power, we're going to look at 2 cards and then recharge 2. So we've got Soothing Word, which we'll keep. And we'll recharge our dinosaur. Then we're going to start doing some healing. So use our Staff of Minor Healing, recharge to heal. And then at the same time, or right after that, I'm going to heal again. So I'll be healing 2 cards instead of just the 1 at a time. So we'll shuffle 2 cards into that deck. So some things we know. We've already defeated the 3 henchmen cards, and we know the villain card is on the bottom from when we fought it last time. So for her turn, she'll go ahead and explore, finding a demonling, combat of 8 or arcane knowledge of 6, immune to electricity and poison, resistant to attack. So before acting, succeed at a wisdom or perception 5 check or suffer 2 damage. If undefeated, suffer the scourge poisoned. So first, we got a wisdom check coming on. Our wisdom is a d6 plus 1. Valeros has an acolyte. On a local wisdom or divine check, recharge to add a d4. Adding 1 to this, looking for a 5. So we got 7, total of 8, so we're good there. We will choose combat for this attack, using a lightning bolt that does have the attack keyword or trait. So we'll need a 12 to defeat. So it'll be arcane plus 2, plus 3d6. And we would be able to ignore any after-acting powers. Valeros will use his power to, we'll go ahead and just recharge this card to add another d6. So we're looking for a 12 and we're adding 2. So there's 12, 17, 18, 22. So Demonling is gone. We'll end our turn by shuffling these into our deck and then drawing 3. Getting a storm, or a cat, and a blessing. So passing turn to Valeros. On your checks while you avenge, bless. We'll explore. So we got 2 cards left. So we know what this one is. Found a lucky star knife. For your combat check, reveal to use strength, dexterity, acrobatics. Let's see if we can get it first. So strength, melee. So there's a chance. So we're a d10 plus 3. See what we get here. So total of an 8. So our lucky star knife goes to someone else. And knowing what's coming up, we're just going to end our turn and draw 2. So we get a spyglass and an axe. For Sione's turn, for blessing, after your exploration, you may move to a random location. We'll draw 2 cards and see about recharging. We'll keep the dinosaur and get rid of a blessing and a lightning bolt. And then end her turn. And then for Valeros, on your check, if I add a wild location, add a d4. So we are at a wild location. So that's going to work out well for us. So let's go ahead and reveal our dragon for the game. So starting with dexterity checks. Adding 1. We have a d8. And this couldn't have come up at a better time. So all our checks here are going to have a d4. So we're looking to get an 8. It's 7 plus our 1 gets us our 8, so we're good. So for Sione's turn, d6 plus the d4. It's got a 7 showing, so she'll make it. Then for the perils, getting a 4, which is going to be the hostile, so that's not going to matter, but we'll mark it anyway. And now the actual fight. So we know we've got a d4 because we're at a wild location. We're using our worm smite, so we know we're getting a +5 with a d10 and a d8 and another d10 because it's a dragon. Then we're going to reload to get another d4. Use our ability, our power on our character card to reload for our d6. Use an ally ability, local combat check, recharge to add a d6. And then Sione will bless this, giving us another d10. So with all these dice, we need a 22, and I'm adding 5. So 3, 6, 10, 14, 17, 19, 22. Exactly what we needed, but an extra 5 to go on. So we've defeated the dragon and won this scenario. So that went well for us. Just as an FYI, didn't need to use it, but you can also use hero points to re-roll your dice on a turn. So if I would have had a bad roll for some reason, I could have spent that to re-roll all the dice on a check. So that concludes our storybook adventure Into the Dragon's Demand. I hope you've enjoyed this series. So please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.